life in 3 dimensions got me bent and got me twisted. I know I done said a lot, but I should probably stop pretending. I don't really hold the key and I can't really push a button. I just step up to the mic and try my very best to bust it, but I ran out of breath. It's tight in my chest, my feet just might fail. I can't stand the pressure.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. You're listening to Racially Speaking. I'm your host, David Phipps, and I'm really excited about this episode today. If you've been listening to the podcast, we've been doing a few things lately. A few episodes ago, I had my friend Nefemi on and kind of launched a series called Gen Z on Justice. So we haven't had a lot of Gen Z representation on the podcast, and I encourage you guys to go back and listen to that episode if you don't know what I'm talking about yet. But I really wanted to talk to this next generation because I think they have a lot to say about the topics we discuss here on the podcast, and I think they actually take a lot of criticism for not being equipped to do exactly that. And I spend a lot of my day-to-day with college students, vocationally and relationally, and I know the opposite is true. They have a lot to say. I think the next generation is, I think the world is in good hands with this next generation during some really tumultuous things going on, especially now that we've entered 2024. But anyway, kind of without further ado, this is episode 2 of this ongoing series we're gonna be doing, and I've got one of my favorite guys in the world, somebody I get to live a lot of life with, get to pour into and mentor. I'm joined by my guy, Trav, aka Young Trav. I'm not gonna say the other one unless you want me to. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Travis Woolard, he's a student here at Radford University. I said here, I'm not at Radford University right now, but he's at Radford University.
Yes, sir.
Where I'm also at, working with college ministry and then teaching on the campus. But look, Trav, man, I love you. Thanks for being here. And before I let you introduce yourself even a little bit more, you're here to do episode 2 of Gen Z on Justice. So I'm going to ask you some thoughts on that, of course.
Yes, sir.
And then as we're sitting here, it's a couple of days away, but at the time of this release, it's going to be the anniversary of, dare I say, the GOAT. He's the GOAT to us.
He's a GOAT.
Our guy, the late, great Kobe Bryant. This is, how many years has it been?
It's about to be 4 years. It's crazy.
It's a 4-year anniversary of the tragic passing Kobe Bryant. And look, we're going to have some fun. We're going to pay some homage to Kobe Bryant. But look, it's no mistake that I had Trav on this episode. We're both, there's a little age gap, but we're both lifelong Kobe and Lakers fans.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, non-sports people, don't turn us off. It's not going to be all about basketball. It's going to be, you just have to keep listening.
Right.
Look, Kobe has been so important to us as sports fans, but we're going to get deeper. I think he's meant a lot to us just personally as men, as fans of the game, as human beings. And something, Trav, we were talking the other day, I think something that had us hit off our relationship was way beyond basketball or being fans of the Lakers, but it was, when we met, it came up, and it was honestly how profound the passing of Kobe was for both of us in our personal lives, and just kind of, we're going to interconnect some things on this episode, but that's something that we saw in each other, of how we could kind of talk and discuss, like, man, why did this impact us so much? A guy we never met, just, he's a sports figure, what's the big deal? Anyway, we're going to get there, but Trav, without further ado, thanks for being here.
Man.
Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Man, thank you. What's going on, guys? My name is Travis. I'm a student at Radford University. I'm a junior. And it's an honor to be here, honestly. Talking to my OG. I call him my OG because he's been a big part of my faith and just my walk with Jesus. Literally, me coming to Christ he was right there. He was literally right there at the first stages of it, and he has poured into me and just been a great role model to me. So it's an honor to be here, and I think it's going to be really fun for sure. Might get a little emotional, but I think it's going to be dope at the end of the day. So
and to be clear, you're talking about getting emotional, talking about Kobe, not the other stuff.
Yeah. I might get emotional at the other stuff, but Kobe for sure. Like David said, when we first met, Kobe was definitely like at the top of the list for the conversation point, and we definitely connected with that because of the emotional, I guess, attachment that I've had to Kobe growing up and just watching him so much. I mean, I used to watch many like mixes and compilations of just his crazy plays over like music in the background and just try to emulate that. And I was just so inspired by him, not just who he was on the court, but off the court as a man. So yeah, this is gonna be really fun.
Yeah. All right, man, let's do it. You're also friends with, shout out to Nafemi. She's a mutual friend as well.
Shout out Femi.
So I got some similar questions for you. Gen Z. So, look, Trav, like I mentioned, and I don't know if you'll agree with this. I think you might. But, okay, so a lot of y'all listening know Trav. But for those of you that don't, I'll just say this. Like, you're if I just sum you up in just one word, I'd say joy. So, like, you are a positive, like, joyful guy. But also say that doesn't mean that you don't have, I don't want to say critical, but you're able to have some really nuanced critiques of things that you are against or believe are right
100%.
or wrong.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I wouldn't consider you someone as... Also, I wouldn't consider you the guy that's going to be in fights and be in arguments about some of these justice issues necessarily, but you have a lot of thoughts. I know that personally because we've had a lot of discussions. So when I ask this question, I'd wonder if you even agree with this. I feel like Gen Z, and I asked Nafemi this as well, gets a really negative rap. Like I feel like our generation, I'm millennial, but older generations look down on Gen Z as, I'm going to say, entitled,
yes, sir, yeah,
fragile, unintelligent. Those are kind of three main ones that come to mind. Do you feel like that is true? Like, has that been your experience?
I am going to be totally honest, and I'm not going to be biased. But I do believe that my generation, obviously talking to a lot of people my age and listening to their ideologies and just how they think, I think to start off with, I would say not the bad, but just like the negative that maybe people could be talking about. I definitely think that there's a lot of, how can I put this? Maybe arrogance, maybe entitlement.
By you guys.
By us. A lot of arrogance, a lot of entitlement. And I think what kind of goes into that is the fact that we have so much accessibility to everything in the world. We have so much information. I know that's cliche, but it is true. Like the accessibility that we have to information in the world is kind of crazy. Like it's wild. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can kind of dabble into, wrap yourself around, and just feel like you have it all. You have it all together. And on the flip side, I would say, even though that could be a detriment, I also think that it's also an amazing thing as well. Just having the accessibility to people in the world and to be able to communicate with all these different people and see all these different things and see all these different experiences. I think it really is amazing, and we have a great opportunity. And I do feel as though that our generation is a generation that is very, I would say we definitely seek. It's a lot of seeking going on within just like ideologies or just so many things that you can find out there, and we want to learn more. I would definitely say that we're definitely a generation that's yearning to learn more and to
Yeah.
receive more information for sure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You you said like the pronoun like it is positive or it's negative. Is the it? I'm just gonna assume you're referring to is something like social media or maybe literally social media. Okay, so yeah, that's good. That's interesting. So you touched on you almost you didn't throw everybody under the bus, but you kind of validated a little bit of the thought of entitlement. Maybe
Oh yeah.
would you say? Let me see if I can unpack what it sounds like you might be saying. Okay, so I mean, do you think that the rise in awareness about injustice, let's say, Justice podcast, that the rise in awareness about something like injustice everywhere is good or bad for the general public? Like, is there too much constant news going on? And so, I don't know. That can be a leading question, but I feel like there's. What do you think? If you had to paint with broad strokes for a second, more positive or negative? Because, like you said, you guys are seeking. So you can seek anything, I'd say, on the internet nowadays. So is it, from your personal perspective, do you see more positive or negative going on?
I would say obviously having all of this stuff going on and us being able to see it, there's so many different opinions and there's so many different thoughts and just different sides. So a lot of, I guess, like disagreement going on. But I do think it's a positive thing. I do think that it needs to be seen. I do think that it needs to be talked about. I don't think that it needs to be under the cover. Like, I do think that we need to see this stuff, talk about it, and process it, and try to figure out how we can do better. I would say for me personally, that seeing a lot of it has desensitized me from, I guess, like anything else happening. So, like, there was a time in like 2020, maybe 2021 or 2020, actually, that I would see something like really bad, like really violent, like obviously an injustice. It shouldn't have happened. And I would just be like, dang, that is terrible. But in the inside, I'm like, this keeps happening. Like, kind of like desensitized. So I would say that's kind of like the detriment to it. That's kind of like the negative side to it. It's like you keep seeing this stuff and to a certain point, you're just numb, and it doesn't really affect you, like it has done before. If that makes sense. So that's the only negative that I see from it, and also like the banter, the back and forth from different sides. Yeah, polarization, exactly. So I will say that's the only negative, but I do think that it does need to be seen at the end of the day, because I like honestly, if this type of stuff was going on within like my friend group or the people that I love or even happening to me, I would want it to be shown to the world. So that's how I feel about it.
Has there been anything, that's great. Has there been anything like culturally and personally that you feel like has, even though I'm sure it would be difficult, has been helpful? So I saw, and I've heard this sentiment a bunch over the last 3 to 4 years. I saw a graphic recently that had it said racism on it, and it was an iceberg. And so obviously, if you know icebergs, the saying like most of it is underwater.
Right.
It said racism on it, and then just the tip of the iceberg was poked up above the water. I said obviously illustrating, or no, and the tip said what we see or recorded on a phone.
Okay.
And it drew me back. It's the same thing that I think it was Will Smith, back in 2020, I think, said. It might have been around when George Floyd was killed, but he was saying something to the fact that more racism isn't happening; it's just being recorded now.
Right.
Do you feel like it doesn't have to be exactly that example, maybe it is, but do you feel like any of that has been good for you personally, if that makes sense? Like, with the awareness, so I'm taking it back to the first question I said, like the awareness element of, like you said, like if this happened to me, or like it's happened to my friends or my community, I want people to know about it. So like, I get it. Like if someone has never seen stuff like that happening, like police brutality, something like that, it can be, I think, tiresome, or like you become desensitized, or like, gosh, I do get to see more and more and more. For me, I'll speak for myself. My pushback is someone that's advocated for these injustices for a long time. My pushback is consistently to that frame of mind of, can we just, enough already? To me, I'm like, it's not enough until stuff has changed and that there's less stuff to record.
Right.
Like, we're focused, I think too much of the time we're focused on, can we stop just seeing all these videos? And yes, I'm not saying the answer is like, yeah, everyone needs to watch all these videos every day, nonstop. Like, that can be extremely unhealthy. But speak for yourself and like your generation. Like, what's your views on the tip of the iceberg thing?
Well, I think it would be, I think kind of like thinking about what Will Smith said. Yes, I do think it is. I do think it is at the pinnacle. Not at the pinnacle as if it was never happening, but us just being aware of it and seeing everything going on. And like I said, I'm not as qualified as you to talk about this, but I do understand that, man, this country is embedded in racism. I do understand that it's still going on today. And I think it would be very ignorant and very just like unaware to say that it's not. So I definitely understand that it's still going on today. And I think a lot of people are ignorant and say otherwise. I think a lot of people think that we're over that, or that obviously we've come a long way, but I feel like there's still so much we have to do. There's still so much going on. So that's how I feel about it. I feel as though it's still going on, and we definitely need to give it the attention that it needs, and definitely see what we can do to get over this and get better. So yeah.
You are qualified, by the way. Like, your experience, man. Like, your experience. You're more qualified than anybody to share your story. Experience on this stuff. Okay, look, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with this one. So, help us out. Help me out. Help the listeners. You know, you're representing Gen Z right now. What's something practical? So, with both of these ends of the spectrum, with information overload, but awareness being a good thing, like, how do we help remedy some of these issues?
I think, first and foremost, like I said, understanding that it's still going on, not turning away from it, not being ignorant of it, sympathizing with it. And also, I would say, obviously, we can't be everywhere, anywhere at once, but also, there's so many things. There's so many resources. There's so many things you could donate to. There's so many laws and things that you can vote on. And I would definitely take accountability on my end. I could definitely be more involved when it comes to stuff like that. I definitely think that I can talk a lot and say, like, dang, this is terrible, or this is still going on, and not take action on it. And maybe that's not just me. Maybe that's a lot of my generation as well. Maybe we speak out on a lot of things and vocalize a lot of things, but really don't take action. And a lot of us do, but I would definitely say for me, definitely taking more initiative and being more intentional about that. Definitely voting. Definitely, like I said, donating to these different places. And I think there's a whole bunch that we can do. I think there's a whole bunch of resources and people that we can reach out to and talk to. So I think it starts there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both fellow 757
yes, sir.
Residents, but find ourselves here in little old Radford, Southwest Virginia.
It's crazy.
What's been the difference for you personally, like navigating just the cultural differences of, Newport News? I'm from Norfolk, and then being here in Radford.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm from Hampton.
My bad. Oh my gosh. Good call out. Shout out to Newport News.
Shout out to Hampton, Newport News.
Hampton, I'm sorry. I've been gone too long.
You gotta come back.
Oh my gosh,
man.
Hampton.
But yeah,
That's like someone saying, "I know you're from Virginia Beach." I'm like, "No,
Right.
I'm not." My bad, man.
You're good. You're good. Man, it's been interesting to say the least, and it's been super cool to experience what I've experienced coming to Radford. So I came to Radford in 2021, and man, the culture shock was crazy. I mean, I'm coming to a way smaller town, obviously a way different dynamic of just culture and just scenery. I mean, back at home, there's no mountains. There's beaches. It's just beaches. That's all it is. It's more city like. It's more urban. Obviously, a lot more people of color. It's just way more diverse. And coming here, it was definitely a culture shock, and I definitely had to get used to it. But honestly, when I said, "Hey, I'm gonna make the best of my situation," and I started to get more comfortability, talking to people, reaching out to people, I was like, "Hey, this is actually a really cool place." And when I first got here, this is before I came to Christ. So obviously I've made a lot of more relationships after coming to Christ and meeting a lot of people here. But when I first got there, like I said, I just said, I'm going to make the best of my situation. So I went hiking for the first time my freshman year. Yeah. That was really cool. I think it was Dragon's Tooth. Shout out Dragon's Tooth.
I've been hiking, I think, twice my entire time being here. It's a little outdoors time I get.
Like I said, I just started to make the best of my situation. I started to go on, I guess, like walks, trails, and just seeing so many different things and realizing that, hey, like, man, this world is bigger than just a 757. Like, I gotta get out more, man. This is actually really dope and really cool. Yeah. And also talking to people that didn't look like me. Obviously, we had that back at home. I've done that before, but being in a whole different location and talking to these people and realizing that, hey, dang, like these people have way different experiences than me. It's really cool. And to just hear that and to just sit with them and to just get to know more people, get to know more culture. And I think it's been really cool. I think it's been really dope. So yeah, it's been a great experience for me. Mm-hmm. And I obviously miss back home a lot. Mm-hmm. Not being able to go to the beaches here. I think there's only maybe one or two beaches nearby. I can't even call them beaches.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's any technical beaches around here. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. I just said I'm not the outdoorsy type. But yeah. I mean, I guess shout out Claytor Lake. There's a tiny little patch of sand out there, but nothing like, Virginia Beach or anything. We're more mountains out here, I think.
I gotta check that out.
That's good, man. That's good. You mentioned last question. You mentioned voting, so don't worry. I'm not listening. I'm about to ask who you voting for type thing. But do you follow? Do you vote and do you follow elections?
I actually don't, and that's why I said I would take accountability and say that I need to be more intentional with that. My grandma, on the other hand, shout out my grandma. Hopefully she can listen to this. She is consistently on my head. Like she will literally bat me over the head.
Well, this is good. What's that conversation look like? So why? Just be honest. Why? Do you have thoughts about policy and justice and how your community may be affected or people are affected? So why haven't you? How old are you?
21 now. Just turned 21.
Okay, so why? Well, then you. Okay. So how many? So you haven't missed a presidential one?
No.
So that at least gets you. We can give you that. We don't have to throw you under the bus completely. There's other elections. Vote other elections, everybody. But why don't you vote? I know. So you haven't missed one yet because you weren't of age. But what does your grandma say? And what's been your pushback?
Oh, it's just an hilarious conversation, because she's batting me over my head, and she's she's so adamant about it, and I understand. And there's obviously some things I disagree with her on, just with what she says about the different candidates and stuff like that. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but I do understand that where she's coming from, it is out of a genuine and adamant I guess just feeling of wanting to make a difference. And she always says that to me. She was like, I just want you to be able to make a difference. Because it does count, it does matter, and I think you should participate. I don't think you should just be a bystander and just stand back and just let everything happen, complain about it, vocalize how you feel, and not take action, just like what I was talking about. So I do really appreciate her in that aspect of just like pushing me to take more action, because I've definitely been complacent in that, and kind of because of, I guess you know what I'm talking about, when you're like forced to do something, you kind of feel like more inclined to just not do it, obviously, like
sure.
naturally. So like hearing my grandma,
no, I'm just kidding.
so hearing my grandma like in my ear about it, it's like, all right, grandma, like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But then I'm like, man.
Grandma, you gotta say less. He'll travel, be at the polls.
Love you, grandma.
Do you think that that dynamic is common among like your peers? Because I feel like there's this, I think there also can be a disingenuousness to how Gen Z reacts to stuff. So I think you guys are synonymous with action or activism, awareness, and your social justice. Like,
right.
I think will be something that is a label for your generation. It definitely is now, but I think years to come it still will be. Do you think that there's also a common inaction at the same time? You might not have a pulse on that. Like, do you think it stops there though? Like, do you think that that's just actually not intentionally, but like unintentionally a misconception that, oh yeah, everyone's on social media reposting all these different injustices and stuff, but do you think a lot of people stop there and are like, okay, that's my action, and don't actually go out and vote?
Oh yeah, to be completely honest, 100%. Like, I wouldn't say it's out of malice or just like obviously them not wanting to be genuine, but at a certain point, like maybe we might get a little complacent or just lazy and feeling like I did my part and that's that. Yeah. Like I remember, I love everyone that's listening. I love all my friends back home and everybody that was doing this. But I remember. I think in 2020, it was a day where like everybody like posted like Black
Square.
Yeah, the Black Square. And there's nothing wrong with that. I totally love it, and it's obviously spreading awareness. But like something like that, like even I can take accountability on that because I think I did that.
That's a great example.
And
I did that.
Yeah, I did that, and I literally did nothing afterwards. Like that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. It's the complacency, and it's just like thinking like, okay, this is it. Whatever happens after that, like I did my part. Like that's just not true. And obviously, I'm preaching to myself because I can take more action. But I do think that yes, a lot of my generation is very vocal, very, very adamant, and very genuine in how they feel, and they really feel passionate about it. But we can kind of like find a little complacency in what we do. So
yeah. That's good. That's good thoughts. You shared some of your story at the beginning. I met you through doing campus ministry, and our guy, Kalen.
It's my brother.
Introduced us.
Love you.
Shout out. We'll see him in a minute. I think you'll agree with this, but something I noticed in you, and this is before you'd say you became a Christian, but I think conversation with me and Kaylin talking about scripture and Jesus is, what drew you into our relationship.
Yeah.
I also noticed I want to ask you this while we're recording, because I've never asked you this before, but I feel like I felt like there was a connection between me and you, not just Kobe. But I felt like you were wanting to engage with some of the things that I'm pretty outspoken about.
Right.
And this isn't a pat on my back. But at the time, I knew that I was few and far between, meaning it wasn't necessarily the norm for a Christian doing, vocational campus ministry to also care about talking about how can we help, fight against racism and, care about social justice. And I felt like you cared about that and were 100%. Drawn to talking about that. I mean, can you talk about, again, like what I don't want you to do, I know you're so encouraging. What I'm not looking for you to do is pat me on the back, but to talk about that sentiment more of being drawn to your faith at the same time as also talking about justice, which to me, they're combined, like they're together, but I know to a lot of people they're separate. So can you talk about what that meant to you and what was so appealing about that?
I think it's because of the lack of conversation in Christian circles and churches that made me say that, yo, like what you were talking about is like actually like needed. Like I don't hear it a lot. And obviously I just came to Christ, but I realized that right off bat, like even growing up, like going to church every now and then, like nobody really talks about that in church. I mean, you get that rarely, but it's not really a focal point. And I do feel like we can, like the Bible and everything about it is relevant for today. Like I do feel like we can mix those together and see what the Bible has to say about it, and actually have these conversations and be vulnerable about it. I think just avoiding it is just like ignorant, and it's not fair. It's not genuine. And that's why I was so like inclined to like ask you so many questions about it, because I want to learn more. I want to be able to have these conversations. I don't want to shut anybody off or I guess not sympathize with anyone that's going through these things. So that's why I was so inclined to like ask you about it and ask questions about it and just be, I don't know, curious, because I just thought if I weren't, and if I didn't, then that would just be super ignorant of me, and to everyone that's going through something. So yeah.
I appreciate you sharing. No, I mean, that was a blessing for me to have you asking me questions and being able to navigate some of these things. I'm with you. It's such a cool time. So we just, listeners, if you've listened to the last couple episodes, you know that a big part of why I and John Mark do this podcast is really was just outlined in a big way by Trav. And it's to help bridge that disconnect that we feel like, again, not elevating us at all, but elevate the void that we think is too often there in Christian spaces, and that's negating or avoiding talking about real issues that we think aren't independent of Scripture, but are synonymous with it.
Right.
And so, Trav, I appreciate you, sharing how that you've lived that out. Now that's been really prominent.
I appreciate you, man. Like I said, like it's been a blessing to have you and to ask you these questions. And I mean, even though I know you don't have all the answers, it is really like 100%. Eye-opening. It is eye-opening and just encouraging to just hear you talk about these things, for sure.
I appreciate you, man.
Yep.
All right, Kobe.
Bean.
Oh, it's gut-wrenching to think about. Man, I think so. Obviously, there is so many tragic things about anybody passing away how they did, passing away with his young daughter. Horrible. When that just in general that happens, like you gotta be inhuman to not be moved by that tragedy, and then others on the helicopter with him.
Yeah.
All right. Let me ask this: How do you think Kobe would be? What do you think he'd be like right now? Like navigating the cultural moment we're in. So he's got young Gen Z daughters. Mm-hmm. Or he would have that. He still had 3 living daughters. And his wife. Man, when I think about the tragedy, I mean, there's so many things, but I think about, man, he had turned such a cool corner post basketball that he was becoming he was making just an exciting pivot to obviously dad life. Yeah. But then he was writing. He was becoming, I just think, at peace about so many things, and he was becoming, I think, an advocate for some of the things we're talking about, some cool causes. Mm-hmm. And he was tapping into it, later in life, like he wasn't as outspoken probably throughout his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it was because he was necessarily avoiding it, but I think he was just informed at a different time. But anyway, we don't have to go there too much. But is that your view? Like, how do you think he'd be navigating stuff right now?
I think first off, I think the way that he transitioned into his career after basketball was actually, and this is gonna kill me to say it, was actually like way more. I don't know if I can say that fully, but I feel like the transition was so crazy to see because this dude that is such a psycho, like psychotically just so captivated by this one thing and being great at it and just being one of the greatest. Like,
it's okay to call him psycho. People should know that if they don't.
And I mean
That's
that
true.
I mean that in the best way possible because I absolutely love it. But this guy that literally wrapped his whole life around just being one of the greatest at what he does, like to the point of exhaustion, to the point of just playing through injury, which we don't get a lot of today.
Man,
Shots.
throwing shade.
But just this dude that was so captivated by this, be able to sacrifice that and move on and to realize that he had children, he had a life after basketball, and that he could leave an impact outside of basketball. I mean, even winning the award for the film he had.
Right, I was gonna say I think that it would have been really interesting because he was, I think that I know you said it in the best way. Sure, there's some negative aspects, absolutely, about how he went about stuff. We're not trying to, say elevate him too high, but I'll say like to keep it on topic, like winning the Oscar for his film, all the writing he was already done. He put out some children's books. I think he wrote his own commercial, stuff like that. He was on the cusp of doing all these cool things.
Yes.
Obviously he had won an Oscar, so that was cool. But he was, I think, putting into action stuff that a lot of people are trying to do now. Like I would say he was doing a lot of stuff that, dare I say, LeBron. Yeah, LeBron's doing a ton. Won't say anything negative about LeBron.
Shout out, Bron.
The more than an athlete thing, or the shut up and dribble thing.
Yeah.
That was navigated. Like he was just already operating there and putting his money where his mouth was before all that happened. And just kind of coincidentally, when all that stuff kind of came out, like I found myself being like, man, this like these younger generation athletes, like NBA players, like all this stuff is great that they have these platforms to be able to raise awareness and all this stuff. But it would have been so interesting to see how Kobe impacted and affected these up and coming guys because he was walking it out already. He was already doing it. Like he won that Oscar, I'm pretty sure, before the news anchor said the shut up and dribble thing. Or maybe, ask me, I think, because it was part of the speech, I think he won it like right after. So it was already in the making. It wasn't like he started writing right after that.
Yeah.
He was already doing it. So
that's
I just
true.
think that would have been so interesting. And I just found myself being like, man, what would he be saying while we're going through COVID and all these cultural disparities of how even COVID was affecting marginalized communities, the contentious political layout that we were going through. Still are. Like, how would he have navigated that, especially post or retirement?
Yeah. And I think also like you said, like he's so involved, and the way that he interacts with like the next generation of NBA players, like how he encourages them and all of that, like it was something like dang, like man, like if he was still here, I still think about it, like the impact that he would be leaving would be, man, it would be amazing to watch. So it's always unfortunate thinking about him not being here, but his impact has definitely been left for sure, and it's still going. So it's dope.
Yes, sir. Let's do a couple more. Is there any part of Kobe's story that really stuck out to you or that you related to personally?
That's a great question, actually.
Here, I'll start while you're thinking. Something that sticks out to me is, which a lot of people don't know, is I was struck by like what formed him as a kid. So for people that don't know, like his dad, Jelly Bean Bryant, was an NBA player, but then played a lot of overseas basketball in Italy. So Kobe grew up in Italy and then went to high school in Philly. But a lot of what I think made Kobe is his loneliness, because he, being tossed back and forth overseas, he says this is what a lot of Dear Basketball, the short film that he won the Oscar for, is about, is his upbringing. Basketball was always his solace and his comfort. And that's what he put all his time and energy into, because he felt out of place all the time.
Right.
I think people, it's hard, and I get it. It's hard to imagine somebody of his stature, it's hard to empathize with someone being like, oh, how could you have been insecure? But he was. He spent a lot of lonely time. He's got dads in the NBA. And he, I think, channeled anger going back and forth because not really knowing his identity, growing up in Europe and then going to high school. He talked a lot. He had some growing pains getting into the NBA, even understanding like how to fit in there, like culturally, like he didn't know. Like, I think that's just interesting. And I feel like everybody can relate to that somehow. Like we all can remember awkwardness in adolescence, like growing up, understanding our identity or not understanding our identity for different periods of time. But I remember sports being an outlet for myself at different times. And my cultural background being Asian, being adopted, being raised and around mainly predominantly white Christian culture. I love my people, but there was, at times I remember reading a lot of Kobe's story and understanding, that like somebody likes him. I understand to an extent what he's talking about, of being misunderstood, not knowing where exactly you fit in, and kind of channeling that into whatever, Obviously, he went to the NBA and I didn't. It was close. I had to make some decisions that didn't allow that to happen for myself. But that's something that I think sticks out to me of just his younger years that I've read about and heard stories about that helped kind of shape him into obviously who he became. And then as he as a dad now, as he transitioned to post basketball, it wasn't just that. Like I think he became this amazing dad overnight. Like I think that's what it shows on social media. We'll bring it full circle and talk about social media again. I think he was probably a better dad than we all think. I'm not saying he didn't dedicate, like was not obsessed with basketball. He would say that, but I just think the genuine love all of his kids had, I think there would have been more of a disconnect personally if he hadn't been a more present dad than we realized all along. And I also love that like his youngest, he's like, I don't want her to remember me as a basketball player. Like I'm her dad. Like they didn't grow up watching me play basketball. That's what the crazy thing is, because all we know is like, oh, they must only care about watching play basketball. And he's like, no, they don't. Like it was crazy for them to watch him drop 60 in his final game because they didn't grow up watching him do that.
Right? They're like, what is this guy doing?
For us, we're watching. Yes, there it is. He's back. But they're like, Gigi, the one that tragically passed away, was like sitting there watching him. Like, I've never seen him do this before. Yeah.
For me, that's actually so crazy to think about. But for me, I would say it's funny because in the aspect of how I resonate with them, if you were to meet me, and everyone that knows me, when you meet me and you figure out I'm a Kobe fan, I'm pretty sure you don't think this, but you don't think of me as this tenacious, obsessive, and just fierce competitor. Like you talked about at the beginning of the podcast, like, very joyous, praise God, and it's because of the Lord. But I think what drew me closer to Kobe is obviously the fierce competitiveness that he had, the tenacious just will and drive that he had. But it was also, this is funny, and I'm going to tell a story as well, if anybody hasn't heard it, but Make-A-Wish Foundation. I was diagnosed with a blood disorder as a kid, and I got the opportunity to indulge with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Kobe granted more than I think, 200 wishes for Make-A-Wish. It's actually crazy.
Wow.
He's granted more than any other athlete. And I think watching those videos for me and seeing him interact with these children, it was like, man, this dude is actually like a really genuine and loving dude. Like, he actually cares outside of the court. I think that's what drew me closer. And funny enough, like I said, I'm going to tell a story. I had an opportunity to genuinely meet him or at least talk to him. But I chose a shopping spree. I chose a shopping spree.
Say, did I know this? Oh my gosh.
I chose
hold on. What was it, hey, do you want to meet Kobe or do a shopping spree? Like, what was the situation?
They said, and my grandma always kicks me for this. She's always like, I told you to go meet Kobe. Basically, they said, like, hey, like, we got a bunch of options for you. We can pick you up in a limousine. I got the pictures, actually. I can send you the pictures.
Oh, yeah, I got to see those.
They said, we can pick you up in a limousine, take you go shopping. But we know you like sports. You said you like Kobe. Maybe you can meet one of your favorite athletes. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go on a shopping spree. And my grandma always like gets on my head. She's like, I told you to go meet Kobe. I told you to go meet Kobe.
Oh no.
And every till this day I still get upset about it. So but all of that to say, like I think what resonated with me and what drew me closer to him and just emotionally connect with him was obviously the fierceness that he had on the court, but also the softness that he had off the court. Interacting with children and loving people and being there for people. So that was really dope to me.
Okay. That kind of derailed. That was amazing and tragic. What kind of shopping spree are we talking about?
Honestly, like not even a crazy one. Like I think I went to Kmart. Like they took me to Kmart. Shout out Kmart. They took me to Kmart and me, you know me, I'm still a big kid. But at the time, I really was captivated.
It would be amazing if you bought like a Kobe jersey.
I didn't do that. But at the time, I was captivated by these things called moon shoes. And moon shoes were these shoes that you put on, and you don't even get more than like 3 feet off the ground.
Like the trampoline looking thing?
Yeah. It was just cool to like jump around. So I bought some moon shoes. I bought this laptop that was like broken the next year. It's crazy. I don't have any of this stuff anymore. I think my mom was like telling me to get some clothes. She's like, put some clothes in a basket. And I got some candy, a lot of candy.
Yeah, that holds up.
And what else? I got a bunch of toys. But like I said, all of this stuff is tragically gone. I don't have any of this stuff anymore. Oh. And it's just, it sucks, but we're here.
You didn't have Mamba mentality, man.
I didn't, man.
He could have been in the gym. He could have gotten you in the gym, gotten you right.
You want to know what's funny? I always go back to watch. I used to be jealous, actually. This kid named Salvador. I hope he's doing well, and I'll be praying for him. But this kid named Salvador, Kobe met, and he took him to the arcade, took him to the gym. He was playing horse with him. And I used to be watching a video like, this should be me.
I mean, was it going to come out to Hampton or were you going to go out to LA? Or?
Either one. They were willing to do that. Like either one of those, I had the opportunity to do, or at least talk to him or something. And I just gave it up.
For candy,
and moon shoes, and clothes.
Oh. I didn't know this would be the saddest part of the podcast. Oh my gosh! I don't think you told me that before because that's gonna be a core memory, man. Passing up the opportunity. Look, we all make mistakes.
We all
make mistakes. All right, last one. Let's kind of bring it, synthesize more of this conversation. Kobe was always an advocate for a lot of stuff, like you, after he passed, I loved hearing just all the stories, like the random, unique stories that weren't big or glamorous. It was always about the individual interactions people, like reporter, like had with him.
Yeah,
that were just really like, man, that you can't make that up. Like that is a genuine dude, like a genuine story. Anyway, I could say a bunch, but something he was always an advocate for. He had 4 daughters. Is women's basketball, the women's game, and
Right.
yeah. And so obviously now I'd say it heightened after his passing, but I'd say it really heightened just when he retired, and he was just a huge WNBA and college basketball fan. Struck up a lot of close relationships with Sabrina Ionescu,
Yep.
Diana Taurasi.
Dogs.
Gigi was close to UConn, the UConn players. Gino Auriemma, the coach out there. So he was a big advocate for WNBA. Anyway, so kind of to bring it full circle, we'll kind of end with this. Trav, as an overall sports fan, have you ever observed how media or fans kind of treat certain athletes differently based on, I don't know, race, ethnicity? And do you have any specific recent examples where you've noticed this kind of stuff?
100%. Not even race first and foremost, but just the way that women. I know this is gonna sound cliche, but it's honestly frustrating. Just seeing the way that women athletes are treated, and obviously it's by maybe trolls and whatnot on the internet, but it is frustrating and it is like disencouraging to see. Just us, a lot of people tearing them down and giving them a lot of flack, and not supporting them. I think women basketball is going to elevate to a place that it's never been before. Like I'm seeing girls dunk. I saw
that the other day. I haven't seen someone
crazy.
dunk since Candace Parker. Or I guess Brittany Griner, but yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy, and there's some dogs out there, like you said, Sabrina. There's also another girl named Jewel Lloyd. She's really good. She I think they call her like the Gold Mamba. She was really close to Kobe. There's so many like amazing talents out there, and I just feel like they don't get the respect that they should. I think Caitlin Clark is actually like kind of turning that around though, with how she plays and how great she is, and just the dog that she is on the court. Like, she's an absolute beast. So I love what she's doing for the game. And then racially, I think yes. Like, unfortunately, yes. I feel like
Yeah. Do you think it matters? And give me your genuine opinion. Don't want to lead you into anything. Do you think it is? Do you think it matters that Caitlin Clark, or I mentioned like Sabrina Ionescu, who is her second year in the WNBA? Anyway, do you think it matters
second,
that she's white and kind of the face of women's basketball? I know she's only in college, but she's kind of the face still.
As much as I would want to sit here and say, yeah, it doesn't matter, nobody cares about that. You know, she's just great, and that's why everybody feels this way towards her. I would love to say that, but like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I feel like if I were to have that attitude and be all the way on that side of the spectrum, then I would just be very ignorant and disingenuous of what's really going on. And I'm not going to get too much into the situation that happened last year with
Angel Reese.
Yeah, her and Angel Reese. But I did see a lot of unfair treatment towards Angel Reese from that. And a lot of people ridicule her in a way that I just think wasn't fair. So I've definitely seen that before. I mean, even when it comes to Lamar Jackson, like I feel like Lamar Jackson has faced a lot of criticism just because of what he looks like.
Ravens quarterback. Non-sports or football people.
Yes. Yeah, he's a dog. I'm sorry about that. He's a dog. He plays for the Ravens, and he's not the most conventional quarterback. Like, he is very versatile. He runs a lot, just like Mike Vick used to do. All of that to say, yes, I feel like, yes, it kind of does matter to a lot of people out there, and I feel like a lot of players have gotten treated unfairly because of how they look. I think that's still going on today. Yeah. And like I said, to say otherwise would be just ignorant. So, yeah.
Yeah. Also, real quick, he or she's a dog for the non-Gen Zers is a good thing. I'm thinking about my mom. My mom will ask me sometimes. She's biggest supporter of the podcast, but will ask me sometimes, what do you mean when you said this? So
yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's a good thing. No, it's good. It's good, man. Be yourself. Be your full self. Let's not. I agree. We won't get too far into it, but what's in here will and give some context. So Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, kind of got into a back and forth in was it championship or Final Four?
It might have been a Final Four.
I think it was Final Four last year, women's basketball. And absolutely, I agree. I think there's got to be some level of ignorance if you if you followed that story and can say nothing was about race. Like there was absolutely unfair treatment of how people viewed Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese, young black player for LSU, Caitlin Clark, white player for Iowa. Both phenomenal players. Absolutely racial elements in that story. Go look it up if you don't know what we're talking about. But I'll bring it full circle to the women's game and say this, that to me the tragic thing right there is that they didn't really even dislike each other in the media. We made it was a disservice to the whole game in general. So it's like that was an amazing game. It became kind of an amazing rivalry.
Yeah.
And then all we were talking about is the little spat they had at the end. And both women even talked, they're like, we're cool with each other. We like each other. Y'all are making this about something it's not. And the other thing, culturally, and the things that I'd say Angel Reese was getting flack for are similar things to what Caitlin Clark does, and they weren't even upset with each other. Like Caitlin Clark plays the exact same way, even more so. She's out there, wants to talk trash. I know people have opinions about talking trash, whether it's right and wrong, whatever. I'm about it if it's part of the game.
It's a part of the game,
and there's levels to it. I think it's fun.
Come on.
She's, hyping up crowds, and she loves, as the young kids like Trav will say, that she wants all the smoke. She wants it. I think it's fun. It's entertaining, but we can't enjoy it when we make it about something that's not. And we don't have that same criticism for the men's game.
Yeah,
is my main point here. And to bring it full circle, I would have loved to see how Kobe interacted with even something like that. Like that would have been so dope to have him hear his, commentary, opinions. Honestly, he probably would have invited both the women over, both teams over, and had a game in his backyard. I don't know.
Facts. That's how involved he was, and that's how much he was an advocate for women's basketball.
Yeah.
Like he truly supported it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm gonna support it more. Like I'm saying all this stuff. I mean, I can take accountability. I don't watch the WNBA every single game, but I see what's going on though. I see that the game is evolving. I see that there's a lot of talent out there, and I'm definitely gonna be one to support it in the future for sure.
Yeah. All right, truly the last one. What brings you hope moving forward in 2024? I think a lot of people are looking at 2024 as it's all downhill from here, all negativity. Like I said, man, you're one of the most joyful, hopeful guys. Give us some hope. What's something that you're hopeful about moving forward along the lines of what we've been discussing?
Man, I think first to kind of go along the lines of what we've been talking about, I think it's all the things that we talked about. I think it's the opportunity that we have, the opportunity that my generation has. This is an election year, right? Like it's coming up. To be very intentional with that, to do research on it.
Y'all can vote for the first time.
Yeah, that's crazy. So definitely thinking about that. And for me personally, it's my faith. It's the fact that God is sovereign and that he rules over all, and that he's in control, and that I can have faith in that I can have hope in that, and knowing that I can have peace in Jesus and what he's done for me, knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully everybody can come to know that and have that same hope and faith. So I would say for me, it's just clinging to him, and definitely doing my due diligence and doing what I can do to make an impact as well on the people around me, for the people that I don't know, and to just sympathize with different experiences and different people. So, yeah.
That's great. That's amazing. Trav, thanks for coming on here.
Thank you.
I love you, brother.
Love you.
Listeners, thank you so much for listening. As always, the music you're listening to is done by our guy, Dylan Dent. Our artwork is created by Ashley Bush. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Yo, Ashley, you're dope, by the way. The artwork is crazy. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Peace. See you guys next time.
See ya.
The nightmare might scare you no worse than reality. They hunt you by day, R.I.P. Ahmaud Arbery. Everybody got a time, but that's less than comforting. I hope I'm alive by the time they choose to comfort me. Mosquitoes in the vein, or leeches on my soul. This money on my mind is a fracture in my bones. You get crippled by continuing existence like a ghost. And they wonder why we drink, and they wonder why we smoke, and they wonder why we think that everything's a joke. I'm shocked that we can sleep, must be the thought of letting go. Now I lay me down to sleep, I'm better with the valley.